And the Anti-Defamation League released their annual audit on anti-Semitism in the United States. And it found that in 2025, physical assaults reached a record high. Overall, incidents of anti-Semitism that include harassment, vandalism, and physical assaults declined from 2024, but remain much higher than pre-October 7th numbers. Anti-Defamation League Senior Vice President of Counterterrorism and Intelligence, Oren Segal, joins me now. Oren, great to see you. I really appreciate your time. These results are stunning, and I want to walk through some of them. We see in the research that physical assaults reached a record high, but overall incidents of anti-Semitism were down for 2025. I'm wondering if you can walk us through those numbers a little bit.
Sure. So every year since 1979 at ADL, we have been documenting actual incidents on the ground of harassment, vandalism, and assault. These represent the lived experiences of the Jewish community. And what we've seen in the last couple of years have been record high after record high. So this past year, for all of 2025, we documented over 6,000. Now, while that is a 33% decrease from the previous year, and decreases are good news, better than increases, it still represents the third highest number we have ever tallied. And so the baseline has shifted significantly, and we are still at very much surge level volume of anti-Semitic incidents. And I think what perhaps is the biggest top line takeaway is that while harassment and vandalism decreased, physical assaults against the Jewish community actually increased 4%.
And Oren, I know so many of us here remember that young couple that was shot here in Washington, D.C., outside of the Capitol Jewish Museum. When you're looking at these incidents of violence, I mean, that's one of many that involved a deadly weapon.
Yeah, I mean, there were over 300 people that were actually impacted by assaults in our data. And not only the shooting in front of the museum in DC, also a firebombing that killed somebody in Boulder, an elderly person. The Governor Shapiro in Pennsylvania had his residence set on fire while his family was in there. And there are the day-to-day incidents that may not make national news of children being attacked in their schools, on college campuses, or people walking down the streets in Brooklyn, right? So I think what we need to understand is why, at a time where this decrease is happening, are we still seeing elevated numbers of assaults? And to me, that speaks to a broader normalization of anti-Semitism on our social media, through the impact of influencers in our public discussion. There's a certain hardcore element that we have just not fully solved, but it shows that there's more work to be done, and we're going to double down on the various approaches that we take to pushing back against this hatred.
And to that end, can you explain some of the things that ADL is doing to combat this?
Sure. I mean, prevention is very important, but protection at a time of increased anti-Semitism and especially physical assaults is key. So, in our Center on Extremism, we track the way anti-Semites and others seek to actually target the community. We work very closely with affected communities, with federal, state, and local law enforcement. When we see something, we say something, as my subway in New York says every day. And we happen to see a lot because of our expertise in tracking threats. But I also think that, grant-funded initiatives in terms of providing government funding is what I meant for the safety and security of synagogues is critical here. As assaults go up, there are a lot of non-governmental and religious institutions that are applying for grants so that they get better security. And a lot of those grants have been left unfulfilled. I mean, even in 2026 in Michigan, we saw somebody plow their car into a synagogue when there were 50 children at the day school. So we know that this story is not just 2025, and we have to continue to advocate for the safety and security of our community.
Well, Oren Segal, thank you very much for talking about those potential things that can be done, and we'll keep an eye on these numbers. Thank you for sharing this with us. We appreciate it.
All right, thank you.